So far, the winter has been pretty well after a rather good cold snap. And I'd like to once again welcome Jesse Austin back with Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. He's getting to be a fixture at our meetings, and we're glad to see that. If you will all rise, we will, oh, wait a minute, nope. See, I forgot we were off too long. The clerk will call the roll, please.
Trustee Bingham.
Present.
Trustee Duncan.
Present.
Trustee Brendan. Here. Trustee Martinson. Here. Trustee Mitchell. Present. And Trustee Saylor.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, now I can say please stand, and we'll have the pledge of allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for our military people that paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Okay, first item on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous board meeting.
Moved.
Motion by Trustee Duncan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Mitchell. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the December 13th, 2017 Committee of the Whole meeting. Motion by Trustee Saylor, second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Grundon. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Public comments are limited to anything on any particular agenda item. You can speak now on it, or I will entertain a comment from you when that item is brought up on the agenda. Is anybody wishing to speak? No? Okay. President's report. The first thing I'm going to do, if I can find them, what I did with them, is the town of Saratoga and the village of Port Edward some years ago talked about the feasibility of an east side fire station somewhere around Town Line Road in the village of Port Edwards. And Terry Rickaby, the town chairman, and myself are getting this ad hoc committee started again. And at the last pit meeting, I believe it was, I appointed Trustee Eric Saylor, who was involved with when we were first trying to get it going, and I also appointed Trustee John Bingham. Neither one said they didn't want to serve on that ad hoc committee, so I have letters here. And the first meeting is going to be January 22nd, a Monday at 6 p.m., and that I have a letter for the Honorable John Bingham and the Honorable Eric Saylor, if Luann, you pass that down. The ad hoc committee's agenda basically is the same, pretty much. It's just the feasibility of the East Side Fire Station. Supervisor John Frank and Supervisor Patty Heeg were the original two from Saratoga, so 3 of the original 4 will be getting back together again. And when it first started, was that, Eric, about 4 years ago? They had 2 meetings and then it just disbanded for whatever reason. So we have an interest in seeing what it can do, and there's a lot of interest also on the part of residents in the town of Saratoga. So, good luck, and see how she goes. Chief, aren't you already got your copy, and you're kind of like the leader of the group over there, so. Then the other thing, without objection, I've asked Trustee Saylor to, we put money aside for iPads for our future meetings, so we don't have all this, not nice to say in paper country, all this paper that we have to cart around to go electric. And he's going to be looking and bringing us back whatever he can find out on iPads. So if you have anything of interest, see Eric. And then I'm going to ask, under my segment, I wanted Mr. Harrington, our interim administrator, He sent out the thing about employee evaluations, and we were going to see about, revamping them or whatever. I myself had I like the one that we used to have for employee evaluations. And I think, Scott, you want to take it from there? You said that you only had a few comments?
Yeah, I really only had a few comments, mostly from Trustee Bingham, and we just kind of discussed to just leave it the way that it is. He's comfortable with that. What I would ask is that as you fill out the form, there's several categories and several things where there's a ranking like 1 to 5. And I would just suggest that anything where there's a 1 or a 5, that you definitely include a comment specific to that, extraordinary circumstance. There's a place to comment under every category regardless, so you can certainly, and are encouraged to add comments anyway, but if there's a 1 or a 5, to definitely do that. I'd like to get those out to you if you're all good with that then, and to I will be back next Tuesday, and then I'm back again on the 25th.
That's the day of public safety.
Yeah, and perhaps a committee of the whole meeting would be in order, and what I could do is sort of work with Luann and kind of summarize those and put those together, and you all can kind of discuss how to complete it. That makes sense.
And that's, if I understand the procedure now correctly, these are only for department heads that, your various committees oversee. And after that, whether it be for whatever department head, then they will be, you want us to get it back to you?
Yes.
And then you'll tabulate them. Then it'll come to the committee of the whole to discuss, and then the actual meeting of the department head will be with the chairman of the Finance and Human Resources, and the village administrator will meet with the department heads. And I think that's better than having, sometimes you have too many trustees around, it's like an inquisition. Just kidding. Okay, anything else on that, Scott?
Nope. And then the department heads will do a self-evaluation of the same form too, so that they can be compared.
So when we get down, when I read the the next meeting is coming up in the future at that part of the agenda, I will pause at the committee of the whole. We know it's on January 25th it's going to be, because we'll get our agenda, wait a minute. When are you going to have the forms out to us?
I can get those out like tomorrow.
Okay, all right. So then we will come back then on the 25th. Think of the time you guys would work best for you guys so we can pencil that in.
Yeah, I think there's a public safety meeting that same night.
That's at 5 p.m., correct? Chairman Mitchell, you usually go half hour, 45 minutes?
Hour,
Okay.
sometimes.
I'll wait.
So, yeah.
You can hash the time out when we get there. Okay, I've said enough. I'm sure employees in the room know I talk too much sometimes, but we will go into our committee reports. First up, public safety.
Okay, our meeting was held more than a month ago, actually, on December 5th. And we got an update on the new fire truck that is coming. There have been some changes made to the blueprints and the proposal for that from the Darley company. 9 firefighters have passed their Firefighter 2 certification, and the department now has 15 of its 28 members Firefighter 2 certified. So thanks to Patrick for making that happen. And one other item we had there's going to be discussion of the fire protection agreements with the towns of Port Edward, Seneca, and Cranmore. Not sure that happened.
Mr. Apps and Chief, you guys want to comment on that, on the fire agreements? Or?
Yeah, there were, because of the timing of some of the approval of the fire agreements late in the year, there were a couple of issues that had come up, notably with the insurance policies of the relevant towns. So there are a couple of changes that need to be made. I guess I see them as I guess they're substantive changes, but I don't see them as creating a major increase to the village's liability. But I'll give an update on that. I've been contacted by Randy Moody from the town of Port Edwards, Jim Sherman from Seneca, and Phil Brown from Cranmore regarding some comments they have on it. So I'll give an update on that once we have some clarification as far as that goes.
Is there a deadline that those need to be done or submitted by?
Well, the contract is supposed to be in force as of the first of the year. So we're operating under the current contract at the moment. So there's, my understanding is that coverage is still being provided at the moment. So, but the intent is that the new contracts will be in force, and that those will just need to be approved on an annual basis now that we've made some changes that needed to be made in terms of updates that have been previously discussed here. So I don't anticipate a significant amount of increased work on that front. So do you have anything to add to that, Chief?
Port Edwards and Cranmore signed already, so.
Okay.
What was that, Chief?
Port Edwards and Cranmore both signed so far, so we're all the way down.
Yeah, my most recent conversation was with Jim Sherman of Seneca, so he had some follow-up on that. But I can give a full update either to the, I guess, the PIC committee or whomever it would be relevant, I think, as far as that goes, or public safety if that's the case.
If you just stay in communication with Chairman Mitchell. So
We'll do.
That would be good.
You're back on, Madam.
Good to have the updates. All right, moving on to the police department. They had 182 calls it would have been in November, actually, that Chief Iverson was reporting on. We also found out that they stopped checking the shelter bathrooms when daylight savings time starts, when it starts. There had also been 40 traffic stops as well. We looked at the plan for the remodeling of the police department that will put up a window and a door and make an entryway there, so we'll be able to leave that door open. And we recommended that the money for that, which was allotted in the 2017 budget, be put in escrow so that we can pay it when the remodeling is complete. And we'll have to hear from Chief Iverson if we know exactly when that's going to happen. Yeah, we're kind of waiting for the company to agree to a timeline. We reviewed timesheets very briefly, just looking at them. And that was basically all the business that we conducted on December 5th. So I moved for acceptance of the minutes.
Move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I got to get in gear here. They're beating me to the punchline. Motion by Trustee Duncan, second by Trustee Grundon to approve the minutes of the Public Safety Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Isn't there discussion, Mr. President, on these motions?
Yes, and talking with Ms. Holcomb, the secretary, and Mrs. Tremmel, the clerk, it's going to facilitate getting minutes. Otherwise, we're going to wait well over a month before a meeting's minutes get on the website, and there will be board meetings where we're not going to have them ready. They would also have to wait for another month, so.
Did you understand? No, sir, my question was, is there an opportunity to discuss the motion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all I was asking.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to back up before the vote, even though it passed. Go ahead.
Well, I just had a question, and I can't remember. I knew it at one time. What was the cost of the remodeling?
$4,100.
Okay. And that was in the budget in 2017.
Correct.
We carry that over. Okay, thank you.
You bet. I apologize to you, John. So we now go to Planning, Property, and Information Technology. Chairman Martinson.
The Planning, Property, Insurance, and Technology Committee met on December 15th. We had discussion and recommendation on the zoning map. Scott Harrington gave us an update regarding the committee and the proposed zoning map and the amended changes as approved. And there was a motion made to approve the zoning map, and so I will make that motion right now.
And the accompanying ordinance?
Yep.
Yeah.
And also along with the zoning map and the ordinance amending Chapter 17. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Martinson to approve the revised zoning map and the accompanying ordinance, and that was seconded by Trustee Grundon. Discussion. Mr. Harrington, you have anything to say on the matter?
I don't. This is mostly a housekeeping matter. The map that had hung in Village Hall has been there for over 10 years, and changes have been made since then that weren't reflected on it. And then there are a couple of cleanup things based on adopting the comprehensive plan last year to be more consistent with that. So I have a full-size copy from the county that we will hang tomorrow in the Village Hall, if you all approve it.
Is that kind of like a ribbon cutting?
Kinda. It's been a long time.
Okay, you've heard the motion, and it was seconded in a brief explanation by Mr. Harrington. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
We also discussed and had a recommendation on the shoreland wetland zoning ordinance, which we will table at that time. It'll be taken up at another meeting. And we did have discussion and recommendation on the private street names for DMI. And Mr. Harrington is going to be discussing the proposed names so that the business in the park can get their utilities set up. Do we have an update on that at all?
Yeah, so we've notified all the public safety agencies and other governmental entities of the names and what the new street numbers are. And then Dell reminded me today that we need to have them get up signs. They're private streets, so they would be responsible. So I'll be contacting DMI to get up street signs so you'll know what they are. So the main drive-through on Wisconsin River Drive, once you cross Edwards Avenue, that will become Business Park Drive. And then there'll be another road on the other end of the warehouse that will go south from Edwards Avenue and perhaps eventually connect up where the old wood yard and coal yard were, if that area were to develop, and then it'll be called Research Park Drive. But those are private streets that the association of property owners on that property will be responsible for maintaining.
Thank you. We also had a resident that visited us for the meeting and regarding to ordinances on the vacant land lots, and that will be discussed and taken care of at a later date by the interim administrator and that resident. Cyber One was in and made a request again to the village board regarding a $10,000 grant that they actually had applied for with CAP services, and that motion was made and it was denied. It did fail. Other than that, that is about it for the planning, property, insurance, and technology meeting. So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of planning, property, and information technology meeting.
Motion by Chairman Martinson to approve the minutes of the PIT committee. Second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Grundon. Discussion.
There was some discussion at some point of actually opening up River Drive all the way through to
Waste filtration pipe road.
Yeah. Is that going to happen, not happen?
Yes, that's the plan. Once the demolition is complete, then Business Park Drive will go all the way through the site.
Okay. That will be helpful when you're trying to beat the train.
But yeah, right now that is all right in the middle of all the demolition. Commission, so it'll be a while before that road is open all the way through. But that is the plan. And, they are submitting a full plat and rezoning request for our amended development agreement from last fall. I'm expected to receive that application this week, and tentatively you're looking at a public hearing before the Plan Commission on February 25th. And after that, it would come to you in March.
We're planning on lowering that speed limit to 10 miles an hour due to all the wildlife on the old highway road down there. So.
Yeah.
Chief, did you mark that? Okay. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Trustee Bingham, Streets, Infrastructure, Recreation, and Cemetery Committee.
Mr. President, when are we going to stop approving minutes again? You said in January or February?
That's what I was alluding to when I misunderstood what you wanted to ask that question. And between Kim and Diane and myself, if we by approving them, they can get them on the website quicker and be available to the public quicker. That's still up if the board doesn't want to.
I'm just asking, because so we're just going to maintain what we've always done.
Correct.
Okay, that's good. I just
But what we did is move it to the last agenda item instead of the first agenda item.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. Thank you for that feedback. Okay, the CERC committee met on December 19th. We addressed a resident's concern on a flushing hydrant. That matter has been addressed by our clean water superintendent and the resident in question. Both has talked to myself and talked to Mr. Leiser, and has indicated he's, I don't know if comfortable, but he's okay with the decision that's been rendered. That resident may approach us in the future about some landscaping, and I encouraged him to do that. There's a legitimate technical reason we can't do anything about that, but if we could work with him on something else, we'd be happy to do that. So that's where that is at this point, and pretty much resolved to the satisfaction of the resident and the committee. We looked at the splash pad, an opportunity to get resident input. We decided that the best way to get the most, and I don't know how many, after I thought about this, I don't know how many contests there will be in the spring election or how popular it will be, but we decided to do the same thing that the chief did at the polling center last year on the badges? 2 years ago, last year. On the badges, after we voted, we had an opportunity to quickly, there was a person there, I talked to Diane, I talked to you, right, Diane, about doing that. That didn't seem to be a problem, so we're going to do it at that time. And then, again, help me, is the newsletter going to be out before then? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll put something in the newsletter. I'll put something together to encourage people to vote, and then vote on the
website too.
And I will bring to the next CERC meeting a brief, because you don't have a lot of time at the election center, but it'll be a brief questionnaire for discussion, and hopefully we can move forward on that. Director of Public Works had a great update on the Port Road pipe and the blockages there. His feedback, or his report back, is that it's functioning properly. Cleanouts will be installed in the future, and the line will be put in the rotation to be jetted. So it appears at this time that that particular problem has been addressed, and I'm very happy to hear that. I appreciate all the work done by the village crew on that, and looking forward to that issue is resolved. Basically, no correspondence received, and that's all I have for the motion for the minutes from the CERC committee.
Motion been made by Chairman Bingham to approve the minutes of the CERC committee. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing no request, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Finance and Human Resources. Madam Chair, back to you.
The Finance and HR Committee met on January 2nd. It was a fairly short meeting. We did review the bills, journal entries for the previous month and the financial reports. And with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve payment of the bills.
So moved.
Motion made by Chairman Martinson to approve the motion to approve the bill, second by Trustee Bingham. Discussion.
I did read them all.
Oh,
Thank you.
it's a long story, folks. We ain't got time. Thank you, Trustee Duncan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And I'd also like to make a motion to approve the journal entries of the previous month.
Motion by Chairman Martinson, approve the journal entries of the previous month. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Mitchell. And discussion? Hearing no request, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We did have correspondence from myself regarding the revised performance evaluation form, which I think Scott Harrington has already explained to us, so I think we've got that covered. And we did talk about the security health, clarifying that an employee's health insurance coverage begins the first day of employment and ends the date that they terminate their employment with the village. So that has been cleared up. There was no other business to come before the board. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the committee meeting.
Motion made by Chairman Martinson, approve the minutes of the Finance and Human Resource Committee. Second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Grundon. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Airport Commission.
It's me again. The Airport Commission had two meetings, one on November 21st and one on December 7th. The first meeting on November 21st, they did go into a closed session, and they came out of closed session, and there really was nothing too new regarding that meeting. There was no action taken, and there was nothing to really report. On the December 7th meeting, they had an airport manager's report, and Airport Manager Sickler highlighted the progress and status of several projects, including that the grinding has been completed in the neighborhood east of the airport and the chips have been cleaned up, and further restoration of properties will continue in the spring. And phase 2 has been completed on the Bullseye Country Club property, and also that the taxiway B West is complete. And the tug had been repainted, and the internet access computer was installed in the terminal building. They reviewed some old business, and the other item, I guess, that was discussed was that they received a quote for time and materials from MSA, which was not to exceed $2,500. And that was for the additional tree identification. Other than that, that was about it for the meeting.
Without objection, I would like to, if you're looking for a motion to approve the November 21st, 2017 and December 7th, 2017 minutes of the Airport Commission.
I'll make the motion to approve minutes.
Motion made by Chairman Martinson to approve the November 21st and December 7th, 2017 Airport Commission minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Mitchell. Discussion.
I assume that identifying the trees or the type of trees and not having to identify that this is a tree.
Correct. And that thing about the tree should be wrapped up. I see it's on their agenda for this week on the 11th.
Is there some reason why the trees have to be identified by type, or?
I cannot answer that. But I did advise Katie, our commissioner, Katie Martinson, for the airport committee that from time to time I would like her to attend the board meetings, so not only those that don't know her will get to meet her and she can provide a better explanation. To be honest with you, when I was on the airport commission, we were going with FAA rules. If a tree was a certain height, it had to be either lopped off or taken down if it was in the flight area, so.
Okay. Just seemed a little weird.
I will have her here next time. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion approval of the minutes will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Trustee Martinson. We're going to go into unfinished business, and I'm going to ask Trustee Martinson and Administrator Harrington to take us through the motion to approve the revised vacation policy.
The vacation policy, the following would replace Section 33 of the Central Labor Policy and Section 28 of the policy of the Police Labor Policy. And an employee who terminates prior to one full, oh wait, excuse me, sorry about that. The following would replace the vacation policy. All full-time employees entitled to vacation benefits will earn vacation time with pay upon completion of the following periods of continuous employment. And those years of employment are stated. Has everybody received a copy of this? Okay. If there's any questions, please feel free to chime in. An employee will become eligible for 1 full week of vacation benefits after completing 1 full year of employment as a full-time employee. On January 1 of each year following the employee's 1-year anniversary date, vacation days shall be allotted to the employee based on the number of years of service the employee has served as of that January 1st for the employee to use during that calendar year. On an employee's anniversary date on which they are entitled to an additional week of vacation, a prorated share of the additional week shall be allotted to the employee based on the remaining number of months remaining in that calendar year. And there was a schedule regarding the proration of the vacation dates. I'm not going to go through the example unless anybody wants me to do so. And vacations will run from January 1st to the December 31st of each calendar year. And the schedule shall be arranged as conveniently as possible, but shall be in all cases be subject to the approval of management. Employees are expected to use their vacation time within the calendar year. However, they would be able to carry over a maximum of 5 days automatically into the following year, and 1 additional week could be carried over with the approval of the village administrator. An additional time may be carried over only upon approval of the village board upon finding that extraordinary circumstances prevented the employee's use of all their allocated vacation time. Any unused time at the end of the year not approved in advance to be carried over shall be forfeited by the employee with no additional compensation due. So, any questions so far? No? And then we also did talk about the vacation payout and regarding a termination of an employee, and if they are there, if they have not completed 1 year of employment, they would not be eligible to receive that. Any questions regarding policy?
That's regardless of whether it's termination or just separation, right?
That's correct. Now, obviously, if an individual is terminated, if an individual terminates their own employment, or if they retire, this would certainly be the policy. But if an individual was released from their employment, and it had to be reviewed, there could possibly be a situation where an employee would not be given their vacation payout. depending on the circumstances. Okay. Any questions?
Talk about the changes, you know, that pretty much.
Mr. Harrington, did you have anything to add to that?
Police committee.
No, I think the policy clarifies that the time that's assigned in January 1 of every year is time that was earned in the previous year. Where before, time given in January was for time earned that year, and you could theoretically end up in a situation where, let's see, somebody had 3 weeks, they take off the first 3 weeks of January and then left, they would actually owe the village money. This way, that can't be possible because you earn the time before it's given to you. So that's probably really the single kind of biggest change and clarification to the policy. And then one of the things in the policy was the incremental use of time as written and discussed at the committee of the whole. There was a change where currently it can be used hourly, and to make that only be per half day. I know a number of employees weren't happy with that, and I don't know if you want to address that again, but that would also be a change from what we currently have.
The policy was left as is. The employees can use an hour of vacation. They do not have to use a half a day.
Okay.
So that part of the policy has remained the same. It was decided at the committee of the whole that enough employees expressed their opinion on that, and it really is not, it's really an advantage probably to the employee and the employer as well, to continue to let them use an hour vacation. Okay.
The village president and the chairman of the FHR committee got feedback on that, so points well taken. Instead of cutting ribbons and kissing babies, it was like cutting razor wire, so. Yep.
Any consideration given for, I don't know how you phrase it, buyout? In my office, I implemented a policy that it's at least so much of your vacation, if you don't use it, you can collect half of the salary for it, simply because of the fact that the cost of replacing somebody while somebody's on vacation can be rather significant. Like police departments, we're going to be paying a lot of times time and a half. And by giving them an opportunity to say, nah, I don't really have anything I want to do on vacation anyway, I just as soon work, and collect their normal salary, they could collect up to half of the value of their week, and you can cap it. But I just...
no,
we never talked.
We did not discuss that at all. And that, therefore, I think that's why we declined to do a payout on vacation.
That's fine. I just, it's sometimes, you know, like the police department would be one. I'll look for streets, you know, because, you know, if somebody's on vacation and the street needs to be plowed, somebody else has got to cover it and you're going to be paying time and a half. And that's why, you know.
I guess we, after, you know, some serious conversation, we had decided that that's why the administrator or the direct supervisor would have the right to authorize more than 1 week of carryover. And those situations could come up, especially in the winter, like you said. If we get a big snowfall, if we've got an individual on vacation, and if another person is ill, there could be a situation where a person is called back to work to complete that snow plowing. But I guess at this time, we wanted to hold back on payout of that.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding the new vacation policy?
I was going to say, I think a part of our rationale was too that we also wanted to encourage employees to take their vacation as opposed to not.
In my understanding too now with this being changed, and if it's passed, that at the end of this year, if you've already have 2 weeks that you banked and you have 4 weeks left to go at the end of the year, is use it or lose it.
That's correct.
Okay. Well,
You cannot bank 2 weeks every year so that in 6 years you end up with, 2 times 6, that would be 12 weeks. No, you can only carry over 2 weeks at the max. Again, unless it's approved by administration.
Well, as a guy retired, he could have 21 weeks stored up, break the bank.
Well, isn't it 1 week and then the second week is upon approval?
Upon approval, that's correct.
Administrator, right.
You can tell us on week 1, the administrator will tell you on week 2.
Right. Okay, so I will make a motion to approve the revised vacation policy.
Second?
Motion by Chairman Martinson, second by Trustee Grundon to approve the changes for the vacation policy. Any further discussion? Hearing no request, all those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we have one opposed, Trustee Saylor. Okay, so that takes care of unfinished business from previous meetings. Okay, under new business, I asked this to be put on there, and after, well, long story short, you all know I'm not good at it. There was a situation in the fire department recently where there was a discipline handed down that the person being disciplined had no recourse for to appeal or anything else. And secondly, Nick, you correct me if I'm wrong, the Board on Protective Service, Police, Fire, the parent board, the village board, city council, we don't have the right to do the disciplining. That's why we have a police committee. So I talked to the person involved and explained what I had in mind. I've talked to Chief Arndt about it, and the person that was involved in the discipline basically agrees that it would be nice to have something like this. So I will ask Dick to give you a detail. It's not really too much to detail, but what the changes involve.
Thank you. First of all, there will come a day when you say, correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't get a nervous feeling. That day is not today. Anyway, so the village ordinances in Chapter 1, Section 6, boards and commissions provides for the police committee. That's where the police committee section is. And under Chapter 62, Sub 13 of the Wisconsin statutes, that's where the authority to create police and fire commissions comes from the state of Wisconsin. And the village has the authority to create a police and fire commission. Now, like the president said, discipline is kind of an issue, and it's an issue with subordinates, and it's also an issue with chiefs. So with all respect to Chief Arndt, who wasn't involved in the situation, it is very difficult to discipline members of protective services without having an independent commission for that. And the reason for that is simple. It's that discipline on protective services is not supposed to be political. It's supposed to be completely independent, so you don't have any political body making a political decision about discipline in its protective services. So the recommended change would be to change the police commission to a police and fire committee, and give that committee the power and duty to discipline any protective services officers, including the chiefs of the respective protective services division, the chief of police and the fire chief, and also any officers who are not probationary would have an opportunity to appeal to them. Probationary officers are still disciplined by the chiefs themselves. So that's also provided by statute. So this is it's something that I guess I don't know if it was originally anticipated, but when you create a fire department with a fire chief and a police department with a police chief, my recommendation is strongly that there would be a commission for the purposes of of engaging in that discipline. And right now, the structure kind of, frankly, it not only puts the fire department officers, but also the fire chief in particular in an uncomfortable situation, discipline-wise. So this is a change that I would recommend making for those reasons.
Thank you. I'm going to take privilege here, and since I can't, as village president, still make motions. I don't like to, but this is something very dear to my heart. I'm going to make the motion to approve amending Chapter 1, Section 6, subsection 4 of the ordinance to include the fire department staff under the powers and duties of the police committee and renaming the committee to the police and fire committee. Do I have a second? Second by trustee Grundon.
Point of order. When we're amending an ordinance, do we have to do a publication and then pass or wait 30 days before we can adopt it? You do in the school district.
There was a publication, off the top of my head, Trustee Duncan, I don't have that information. I had just seen that this was on the agenda a couple of days ago, so I didn't have time to look into that before we had gotten it. But it's something that maybe we're publishing just for the sake of transparency, if there's an issue with that.
Is it statutorily for school districts amending any policy you present, then you have to wait 30 days and then you can adopt? That's the standard that I...
What's the difference between policy and ordinance?
Well, it depends on the circumstance. But if this is something the board would like more information about, it's something I can look into. Again, there's so much short notice on
it's not that I have any problem with this. I just don't want a situation where somebody comes back and complains and says you can't do that without the requisite waiting period, and then we end up everything's screwed up and whatever.
Would you approach Mr. Drovick? He would be able to clarify that really quickly.
Yes.
And then when you get back?
Well, absolutely. Either way, if we table it for tonight and put it on the next one, we'll have the 30 days. Even if it's required, it'll still be enough. We've presented it and can come back.
That's true. There would be sufficient notice on that basis.
But then we'll always know about it in the future.
30 days, yes.
Yeah.
Well, then, under the circumstances, I don't think it's necessary, but I will withdraw my motion. And Trustee Grundon, you will kindly withdraw your second.
Yes.
And I will accept that, Trustee Duncan, as a motion to table pending finding out.
Basically determining the point of procedure on this.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Grundon. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It will be on the agenda under unfinished business for our next meeting. Moving on, Clerk Traeger.
Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to award the full-time employees a $50 chamber gift certificate as a safety award for no workers' compensation lost time claims in 2017 and 21 years without a lost time incident.
Do I have a motion to that?
Moved.
Motion by Trustee Duncan, second by Trustee Mitchell to award full-time employees $50 chamber gift certificate as a safety award for no worker compensation lost time claims in 2017, and it'll be 21 years without a lost time incident. Although, any discussion?
How many employees?
No, I'm just saying not what we...
Oh. Generally, Nick told me attorneys go like this.
No, I just...
Mr. Bingham.
Just a question. So are we talking about department heads, street employees, fire department, chief,
21
police
years
chief?
without a claim.
12 full-time employees.
Full-time employees.
So, with all due respect, our clerical staff will get the $50 gift certificate. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, geez, but that's kind of the phrase of the night.
Nick.
Isn't it, again, I'm not trying to take $50 away from anybody, but isn't it typically given to people that are in the field of manufacturing or construction or something where, no? I mean, our street department, I'm proud of that fact. I'm proud of that we have that for everybody.
We have the potential for clerical staff of carpal tunnel as an occupational disease. We have the potential for injuring from picking up file boxes and such. Since the ingress and egress from the building while employed is covered under workers' compensation, falling on the ice coming in or out of the village hall would also be covered. So the fact that we don't have any claims for 21 years, I find it hard to believe that we haven't at least had a frivolous claim filed in 21 years, considering the fact that I've been an applicant's attorney handling workers' comp for 28 years. So if it costs us $50 so we don't have another claim, great way of using the money.
I agree on that respectfully. The walking over to the post office and the bank, and I think there's plenty of opportunities, speaking from somebody that has had an ice incident, things like that. I would think it would be good to include the clerical staff.
I agree with those comments as well.
I'd also like to add that when an individual is sitting at a desk all day, they can tend to have neck problems, shoulder problems, and I'm not saying that somebody who is, working with concrete all day or, large equipment that their risk factor isn't greater, but there is some truth to the fact that an individual who has a sedentary job, so to speak, still has that potential problem or potential workers' comp injury.
So,
I feel that all the employees should be.
So when the chief had an ankle injury, we didn't have a workman comp claim on that?
It wasn't out at all. It wasn't lost time.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
It wasn't lost time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anything else?
I just have one other question.
Go ahead.
Do we have like a safety program, or is this just going to be every year, just if we remember to do it or not remember to do
We've
it?
been doing this every year that I've been
Okay.
here.
Oh, that's news to me. I did not know that.
I started in 1978.
I thought this was a first time, one time thing.
It's been back in the 60s, I think.
Okay, well that changes my perspective.
One question is, how long has it been $50? I mean, if it's been $50 since 1970.
I don't know when it changed, but I can remember getting a few $25 checks.
Okay.
Or a gift certificate.
All right.
Is this an all or nothing?
So if one person had a lost work time claim, does everybody lose it?
Yeah,
That's usually the way it is.
it's a team effort.
Don't slip and fall. Here we go.
And then
We've jinxed this whole thing.
the employee that was hurt goes into FBI protective custody. Okay, we had
We obviously budget for this.
Yep.
Okay.
Who made the motion?
Trustee Duncan.
Trustee Duncan, second.
Trustee Mitchell.
Trustee Mitchell. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Abstain.
Pardon?
Abstain.
And one abstention. So that would be 5, 0, and 1 abstention. Okay.
And I'd also like to ask for a motion to approve the length of service award payment for 2017 in the amount of $7,221.84 and the annual corresponding maintenance fee of $860 for 24 qualifying firefighters.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Duncan, second by trustee Bingham. To approve the length of service award, the LOSA payment for 2017, the amount of $7,221.84, and the annual corresponding maintenance fee of $860 for qualifying firefighters. Is there anybody wish to speak on this? Hearing no request, all those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I will abstain from that. I'll abstain.
A lot of that going around, so we got another abstention.
I can vote if you want to give me one. I'll just rather stay out of it.
Yeah, good one.
$50 is enough.
Okay,
I'd
I'm
also
sorry.
like to ask for a motion to approve an operator's license for Lisa Blakesley, working at Bourbon Barrel, valid through June 20th, 2018.
Do I have a motion?
This is June 30th.
Or what did I say? June 30th, 2018.
By operator's license. Oh, I'll move. I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
Motion by trustee Duncan to approve operator's license for Lisa Blakesley at the Bourbon Barrel, valid through June 30th, 2018. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by trustee Martinson. Do I have a discussion?
Oh, yeah.
What do you
Okay.
mean by operator's license?
It's also known as bartender's license, just so they can sell.
So, and do we have a number that we regularly, that there's a cap on for the village? Or do we just, anybody who wants one gets one?
Basically.
Normally, the employers who have the license will have their employees, who will put in for it.
All right, and this is by operator's license, bartender license, is there any requirement as far as certification or anything like that? So they have to complete the bartender's certification
Yes,
class?
he completed the online class, gave me his certificate.
Okay.
So what does this mean in terms of that business location? So do they have a license to serve alcohol?
To sell alcohol.
Only sell? What does, so I didn't know there were two places next to each other until tonight, before the meeting, to be honest with you. So what does Mr. Noble have?
A license to sell liquor and beer.
Okay, so this is, and then this person, Lisa, is going for liquor and beer also.
An operator's license, so she can sell.
Just like a gas station.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically,
What is the ordinance in Port Edwards on, obviously there's no ordinance against selling it. I thought there was at one time, obviously that's no longer in place. There's no ordinance against
I
selling.
never knew an ordinance to be. I think way back when it was just the powers that be said there wouldn't be any bars or anything in the village.
Okay, so that was an urban myth.
Yes.
no, we
Okay.
still have an ordinance about not serving. The Class B license.
Okay, so that exists.
This is like the gas station. They can sell.
Is that gas station up on 54? Is that in Port? I don't understand this. I mean, from a business perspective, I don't understand why there's two places. Neither, I know one is not doing any business and another one wants to open next to it not to do any business. I am confused. I really am. And I can't vote for this. I just can't. I just don't see it benefiting the village of Port Edwards at all. I didn't even know it existed. I didn't even know the other place sold liquor till tonight.
What other place was,
Mr. Noble has an operator's license to sell. I went there tonight. I don't even know how he exists, let alone opening one next door to him. Now, that's not our decision to make. If people want to go into business, that's a business decision, not a...
But you understand the operator's license for Lisa is so she can sell for the owner of the business.
She's an employee.
Yeah, she's an employee.
Of what business?
Of the
Mr. Noble.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't know that. I thought we were talking about a
And to
separate...
confuse you more if it does. Now,
Okay.
the restaurant has a different license where you can consume on.
So what does Mr. Noble have? Mr. Noble has an operator's license?
Just
All right.
to sell. To sell.
Okay, I didn't get that. Even tonight, when he tried to explain to me, he was talking like it was competing business. At least that's what I got out of it. But, all right, I feel a little better now that we're not... I'm a little reluctant just based on the fact, and he would be very unhappy with me after he bent my ear for about 15 minutes tonight, that this board, to my knowledge, is not, obviously I'm not knowledgeable. And I don't know about having, I don't see the benefit. No, he's already got one, so he's just looking for an employee to help him. He claimed he couldn't take Christmas vacation because this person didn't have an operator's license. I don't understand. I'm confused.
This isn't an employee, so if the owner has one, and the employee has one, I guess I don't see why you think...
Well, no, I understand that. Now I understand that...
he's not there and somebody wants to buy alcohol.
I'm just reluctant to open the door. I'm reluctant to... Yeah, it's not that I'm against this person getting one to help the business. It's just that...
You don't want the business here?
Well, I don't want to go that far. I'll be anti-business then. But it's like, is that... let's bring in a slaughterhouse instead.
We have to limit it to the license. We can't talk about the business actually in that regard.
Okay, now that I understand that it's an employee of the business, I'm a little more at ease. I didn't get that even from Scott tonight, Mr. Noble. He was unhappy. He was so unhappy, it was hard to discern what he was unhappy about.
To sell alcohol, you have to have an employee on.
Right, no, I understand that. I understand that whole thing now. It's just that, okay.
Any other discussion? Would you read back who made the motion and who seconded it, please?
I apologize.
No, you don't have to. It's part of the...
Trustee Duncan and seconded by Trustee Martinson.
Okay. All those in favor of approval of the app?
I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm just sitting here thinking, is there still a discussion option?
Technically, no, because I've already called, but without objection, go ahead.
I get the part about she needs an operator license, and I will vote in support of that. However, I think that as a board, I think that many of us have had complaints in the community about...
Point of order.
Okay.
This is not...
Well, you base, hold on, Trustee Duncan, you base your point of order on?
This is not, the business itself is not on the agenda.
Right, that is allowable, so we'll have to cease.
We can't discuss it.
It has to be restricted to the substance of the motion.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and I always asked, and I said that it was not allowable, so. And I
So it's restricted?
So anyway, all those in favor of the operator's license will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
One opposed. Okay, that passes. Before the community calendar, Administrator Harrington, do you have anything of importance?
No, sir.
Chief Iverson? Chief Hart? Okay, community calendar. Our next meeting will be June. School's out right now. January 16th, Tuesday at 5 p.m. That will be the CERT committee, and they will be meeting at the municipal building. Followed by a closed session of the Finance and Human Resource Committee at 6 p.m. to discuss personnel matters. Then on Monday, January 22nd at 6 p.m. in the municipal building will be the feasibility ad hoc committee for an east side fire station.
Excuse me, where is that at?
Municipal building.
In that?
Yeah. And Chief, that'll be fluctuating, meeting here, meeting Saratoga, you know. Tuesday, January 23rd, 5 p.m. will be the PIT committee, and that will be in the municipal building. Thursday, January 25th at 5 p.m., Chairman Mitchell and the Public Safety Committee in the municipal building. which will be followed at a time to be set here very shortly of the Committee of the Whole to discuss department head evaluation. What time do you folks?
What date is that again, sir?
25th, Thursday.
Public safety's at what time?
At 5, and you said you go an hour?
Probably better allow that, yeah.
Okay. 6 p.m. all right with you folks? And then I selected data to fill in for you on the first part because that may be a conflict of interest. And then you will be there for the second part so he can
Certainly.
go to his meeting. Thank you.
About 6:15, you said.
Then on Thursday, February 8th, will be the regular Finance and Human Resource meeting in the municipal building at 5 p.m. And then Tuesday, February 13th, 7 p.m., village board meeting right back here at the shelter. Any questions on the meeting list? Yes.
I will not be present for the February 13th board meeting.
Okay.
I will be out of town.
I think you told me that.
If you have an iPad, you can FaceTime.
Shut up, Eric. I will not be available.
We can put you on a big TV.
I just asked you to help me get some iPads for the board.
No excuse for that.
FaceTime, that's something unique. I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Yes.
may I comment?
Yes.
Other than showing my ignorance on a couple items tonight, I had no knowledge on the chamber gift certificate. Never heard of it before I saw it on the agenda. It would have been informational to know up front what that involved. Would have done away with all my questions. I guess when we come to a board meeting, I would like to have the information to vote without having to get into a discussion, if possible. And I don't know, if that's an annual thing, that's fine, I support it, blah, 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 but it came out of the blue at me. The other thing is the bourbon barrel. Everything I learned about the bourbon barrel, I learned at 20 to 7 tonight. I didn't know a thing about that place prior to that. We're meeting with that owner next Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
Yes, he said he would be there. He burnt my ear for about 15 minutes. I had no idea. Anyway, I didn't have enough information to feel comfortable about either one of those things, to be honest with you. And I guess in the future, if we can, I would have rather voted, of course, he wants to get her in there, obviously, because he wants to take some time off whenever he's open. I don't know when he's open. But I think in the future, I would like to have more, personally, a little bit of the information in advance on these types of things that we haven't discussed in committee. And that's not on the clerk, that's on a committee. That should come through a committee that should be a committee report.
And I say that the agenda was forwarded to everybody.
Yeah, no, I saw it. And that's true.
Asked,
Yeah, and I did ask. You're right, and that's a good point, Diane. It's an excellent point. All right, now said.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
You got it.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
We stand adjourned.